Mara stood in front of her bedroom mirror, turning this way and that, trying to see herself from every angle. She tugged at the hem of her dress and smoothed down the fabric over her shoulders. But no matter what she did, she couldn't shake the nervous flutter in her stomach. Tonight was a first date in a long time, and her heart was doing somersaults she hadn't felt in years. "Do I look okay?" she muttered to herself, her voice barely above a whisper. Her hands trembled slightly as she touched her hair. She thought about asking someone, anyone, for advice, but everyone in her life seemed busy, too busy for her trivial worries. Then, as if on cue, there was a soft knock on her door. "Hey, Mara," came Lyra's voice, calm and deliberate. "Everything all right in there?" Mara's heart skipped. Lyra, her neighbor, always quiet, always polite, always slightly mysterious. Mara hesitated. Yeah," she said, trying to sound casual. "I just wanted to check something." Lyra stepped into the room without waiting for an invitation. She moved with a quiet confidence, holding a small mechanical device in her hands. It whirred softly as she adjusted its settings. Her sharp eyes flicked toward Mara. "A date?" she asked, raising a curious eyebrow. Mara nodded, feeling a blush rise to her cheeks. "Yes. And I don't know. I want to look okay." She fidgeted, twisting her fingers together. Lyra's lips curved into a small, enigmatic smile. She walked closer, her eyes scanning Mara's reflection in the mirror. "Do you see it?" she asked softly. Mara frowned. "See what?" Lyra's smile widened, just slightly, but enough to make Mara feel a strange warmth in her chest. "Why don't you see I love you?" Mara froze. She turned toward Lyra, unsure if she had heard correctly. Her words caught in her throat. What?" Lyra shrugged lightly, as though it were the most natural thing in the world. "I've always loved you, Mara. I just thought you didn't notice." Mara blinked, trying to process the confession. It didn't sound like a joke. Lyra's face was calm, serious, honest. Mara laughed nervously, a sound that felt awkward in the quiet room. "You're joking, right?" "No," Lyra said simply. "Not joking. Not even a little." Mara didn't know what to say. Her mind was a swirl of confusion, disbelief, and curiosity. She had known Lyra for years, but she had never imagined this. She had never thought about Lyra in that way. And yet, now that the words had been said, a small part of her heart started to consider it. I don't know what to say," Mara admitted, her voice soft. She turned back to the mirror, staring at her reflection, trying to avoid Lyra's gaze. Lyra didn't say anything. She simply stood there, quiet and patient, letting Mara gather her thoughts. There was something comforting about her presence, steady and unshakable. Mara's heartbeat began to slow as she felt a sense of calm settle over her. After a moment, she turned back toward Lyra. "I have a date tonight," she said quietly. Lyra nodded. "I understand. But don't forget it." Mara smiled faintly, feeling a strange mix of emotions she couldn't yet name. She thanked Lyra, and her neighbor left the room, closing the door softly behind her. Mara stared at the door for a long time, her mind racing. Her date was with someone she had met at work, someone charming, polite, and polite in the way that felt safe. He was easy to talk to, predictable, and yet he didn't make her heart race the way Lyra did now, simply by existing in the same room. Mara shook her head and tried to focus. She had to get ready. She applied a little makeup, brushed her hair, and slipped into her shoes. Everything felt small compared to the whirlwind inside her. By the time she stepped outside, the city was alive with neon lights and soft hums of hovering vehicles. The skyline shimmered like a sea of electric stars, and the streets were busy with people, and machines coexisting in a strange harmony. The future was here, but the old human feelings, love, fear, hope, remained just as strong as ever. She met her date at a small cafe near the edge of the city. He smiled at her, and she returned the smile, trying to ignore the thoughts of Lyra that lingered at the back of her mind. They talked, they laughed, and she realized quickly that he was charming. But somehow, not enough. Something felt missing. As they walked through the city, a sudden alert sounded through the streets. Large screens lit up with red warnings. Unidentified. Object. Approaching Earth. All citizens stay indoors. People froze, staring at the sky where a shimmering mass moved unnaturally fast. Mara felt her chest tighten. She grabbed her date's hand, but he only looked confused. "It's probably nothing," he said nervously. But Mara knew better. Something about the movement of the object was wrong. Her heart raced, not from nervousness about a date, but from instinct. She thought of Lyra. If anyone could understand what was happening, it was her. Without thinking, she ran back to her apartment, ignoring the protests of her date. He called after her, but she didn't stop. She had to find Lyra. When she arrived, Lyra was already there, looking at the monitors in her small workshop. Various drones and devices hovered around her, scanning and analyzing the readings from the approaching object. "You saw it too," Mara said, breathless. Lyra nodded. "I did. And it's not just a meteor or a satellite. This is something else. Something intelligent." Mara's eyes widened. "Intelligent? Like aliens?" Lyra didn't answer immediately. She was focused, her hands moving rapidly over the controls. "Possibly," she said finally. "And if it is, we need to be ready. Humans alone might not be enough to handle this." Mara felt a thrill of fear and excitement. The world she thought she knew was changing in an instant. Her worries about appearances and dates seemed trivial compared to what was unfolding outside. Lyra looked at her, eyes sharp and steady. "Mara, I need you to trust me." Mara nodded, her heart pounding. "I trust you." In that moment, standing beside Lyra, Mara realized that life was bigger than she had imagined. Love, danger, courage, all of it intertwined in ways she could never have predicted. And somehow, amidst the fear and uncertainty, she felt a strange sense of hope. Because humans, messy, emotional, brave, had a way of surviving, of finding strength when it mattered most. And Mara knew that, no matter what happened next, she would face it with Lyra by her side. Outside, the city held its breath as the unknown object drew closer. The adventure had begun. The city lights flickered as the red warnings continued to pulse on every screen. Outside, the hum of hovering vehicles mingled with distant sirens, creating an eerie symphony of fear. Mara and Lyra stood side by side in the cramped workshop of their apartment, their eyes glued to the monitors. The strange object in orbit above Earth was no longer a distant anomaly. It had grown larger, brighter, and undeniably intelligent. Lyra's fingers moved swiftly across the controls. Small drones hovered around her, scanning the sky and feeding data into her holographic displays. "These aren't natural," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Their speed, their formation, it's deliberate. They're studying us." Mara swallowed hard, her stomach twisting in knots. "Studying us? For what?" Lyra hesitated, her usually steady hands pausing mid-motion. "We don't know yet. But we can't just wait to find out." Mara's mind raced. She thought of her date, the one she had rushed away from, and suddenly, the petty worries about dresses and hair seemed laughably small. This was real. This was danger. And humans weren't just bystanders anymore. They had to act. "Lyra, what can we do?" Mara asked. Lyra looked at her, a spark of determination in her eyes. "We adapt," Humans always do. That's what makes us strong. And tonight, Mara, we're going to prove it. By the time they left the apartment, the city was alive with chaos. People were evacuating the streets as automated emergency drones tried to guide citizens to safe zones. Mara's heart pounded in her chest, but she felt an unusual clarity. She was terrified, but she was alive, and for the first time, she realized that fear could be a tool, not a chain. Lyra led the way toward a nearby tech hub. "We need access to their communication networks," she explained. "If we can intercept the signals from those ships, we can understand their patterns. Then, maybe we can find a weakness." Mara nodded, following closely. Her mind was focused, her senses sharp. She watched Lyra work with an elegance that Mara had never fully appreciated before. Each movement was precise, each decision calculated. She realized that this neighbor, quiet and reserved in ordinary life, was capable of brilliance that few could match. As they entered the tech hub, the first alien drones appeared overhead. They shimmered with metallic light, moving in strange, geometric patterns that defied conventional physics. People screamed and ran. But Mara didn't move. She watched, memorizing their patterns. "They're scouting," Lyra said, scanning her monitor. "We can use that." Mara nodded. "How?" Lyra smiled faintly. "Humans are unpredictable. They rely on precision, but they can't anticipate improvisation. And that's where we'll strike. APR, 2PS. She handed Mara a small handheld device. "This is a signal jammer. You'll need to place it near the hub's main satellite array. It will confuse the drone's sensors. Buy us time." Mara's hands trembled as she took the device. She had never done anything like this before, and the thought of failure terrified her. But Lyra's gaze was steady, encouraging. "You can do this," Lyra said simply. "I believe in you." For the first time in her life, Mara felt the weight of her own strength. She nodded, determination settling over her fear like a warm cloak. Together, they moved toward the satellite array. The hub was chaotic. People shouted, alarms blared, and drones swooped overhead. Mara ducked behind a console, her heart racing. "Okay, I can do this," she whispered to herself. She crept forward, keeping low, and found the satellite array. Lyra's device hummed softly in her hands. She attached it to the control panel and activated it. Immediately, the alien drones' movements became erratic, their patterns disrupted. A few of them collided with each other in flashes of light. "It's working," Lyra called from across the room. Mara allowed herself a small, victorious smile. For a moment, she felt powerful, capable, alive. Humans were small and fragile compared to the aliens, but ingenuity, courage, and adaptability made them dangerous opponents. But the victory was short-lived. The alien fleet above responded, sending larger drones that could adapt to the signal interference. They moved faster, smarter, more dangerous than before. The city trembled as the new drones struck buildings and infrastructure. Lyra's eyes narrowed. "They're learning from our actions. We have to escalate." Escalate. "Leader?" Mara watched in awe as Lyra began to control the hub's other systems. Energy grids, transport drones, and even automated defense units all were redirected under her command. The aliens' adaptive strategies were impressive, but they couldn't match the chaotic ingenuity of human improvisation. Mara realized something profound in that moment. Humans weren't strongest because of technology alone. They were strongest because of the human mind, the human heart. The willingness to act when everything seemed impossible. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time had lost its meaning. Mara and Lyra moved through the chaos, coordinating defenses, improvising solutions, and saving civilians caught in the crossfire. Each victory no matter how small, strengthened their bond. At one point, a section of the city collapsed under an alien drone strike. Mara froze, staring at the debris, her heart hammering. "Lyra, we can't stop them all," she shouted. Lyra grabbed her arm firmly. "No, but we don't need to stop them all. We need to outthink them. And we are." She pointed to a cluster of alien drones circling above a supply depot. "Mara, you can drop that EMP charge. It will disrupt their systems long enough for us to take control." Mara hesitated. The thought of failure, of harming innocent people, made her stomach twist. But then she looked at Lyra, calm, confident, trusting, and something inside her shifted. She activated the EMP. The drones shuddered, sparks flying as their circuits overloaded. The supply depot was safe. Civilians cheered, and Mara felt a rush of pride and relief. Lyra's hand found hers, gripping it tightly. "See?" she said softly. "Humans never give up. That's our power." Mara looked at her, really looked, and felt a warmth spread through her chest. It wasn't just admiration or gratitude, it was something deeper, more complicated. Lyra had always been part of her life, but now, in the heat of chaos, Mara realized she had never truly noticed her before. "Lyra," she whispered. Lyra smiled faintly, her eyes glinting in the dim light of the hub. "I've always been here, Mara. You just had to see me." For a brief, magical moment, the chaos around them faded. Mara's fear, her doubt, even her nervousness about the earlier date, it all seemed trivial. What mattered now was this: courage, love, and the human spirit. As the night stretched on, the alien forces retreated slightly, confused and disrupted by human improvisation. Mara and Lyra stood atop a damaged building, watching the city glow below them. Fires burned in some districts, but the people had survived, and humanity had proven itself adaptable, resilient, and clever. Mara turned to Lyra, awe in her eyes. Lyra nodded. "Yes, but this is just the beginning. They'll be back. And next time, it might not be so simple. We need to be ready." Mara took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the night settle in her chest. "I'll be ready," she said firmly. Lyra's hand brushed against hers again, a quiet, intimate gesture. Bright and undeniable, forged in the fires of chaos and courage. And for the first time, Mara understood what Lyra had meant all along. She hadn't just been waiting for the right words, she had been waiting to see the truth for herself. The city below them was scarred, but alive. The alien threat had not been eliminated, but humanity had proven its worth. Mara felt a surge of pride. They had faced the impossible, survived, and discovered something more important than victory, connection, trust, and the power of human ingenuity. Lyra turned to her, a small smile tugging at her lips. "We'll face whatever comes next. Together." Mara nodded, squeezing her hand. "Together. No, 10 you see. No, 10 you see. No." And in that moment, amidst the chaos, the city, and the unknown, Mara knew one thing for certain. Humans were extraordinary. Fragile, yes, but resilient, brave, and endlessly resourceful. And love was just as powerful as courage. The night was far from over, but Mara felt ready. They had survived this trial, and whatever came next, she would face it not alone, but with the one person who had always truly seen her. The city trembled under the alien assault. Shattered streets, twisted metal, and flickering lights painted a chaotic picture. Drones hovered and swooped, scanning for human activity. Mara and Lyra stood on the roof of a partially destroyed building, their eyes fixed on the advancing alien fleet. The once peaceful skyline now seemed like a battlefield in an unfamiliar war. Lyra's fingers danced over a holographic tablet, redirecting the city's defense systems. "They've adapted," she said, her voice calm but firm. They learned from our last move. If we don't act fast, the next wave will tear through the city. Mara's heart pounded. She could feel the fear in her chest, but now it was tempered by resolve. She had faced panic before, but this was different. This was life and death, and it demanded courage. "What can we do?" she asked. Lyra looked at her with sharp, steady eyes. "We improvise. Humans are unpredictable. That's our advantage." Mara nodded. She understood. The aliens might be faster, stronger, and technologically superior, but humans had something the invaders couldn't anticipate: creativity, intuition, and the ability to act when rules no longer applied. They moved quickly through the streets, dodging debris and alien drones. Citizens were running, crying, and panicking, but Mara and Lyra focused on strategy. Lyra had commandeered the city's automated transport vehicles, turning them into makeshift weapons. Mara helped, guiding them through narrow streets to block drone advances. "You see?" Lyra said, her hand briefly brushing Mara's as they worked. "They can't predict us. That's what makes humans dangerous." Mara smiled, adrenaline and admiration mixing. Lyra's gaze softened for a moment, and Mara felt a warmth that had nothing to do with fear or excitement. It was personal, intimate, grounding proof that even in chaos, humanity could hold on to connection. The alien drones began concentrating on the city's energy grid, threatening to plunge the entire metropolis into darkness. Mara spotted the control hub nearby, a structure filled with cables, consoles, and power conduits. "If we can't stop them, the city will fall," Mara said, pointing. Lyra's eyes sparkled with determination. "Then we don't just stop them. We turn their attack against them." They entered the control hub, moving carefully among sparking wires and flickering consoles. Lyra connected to the city's energy network, her fingers flying over the controls. "I can redirect the energy pulses," she explained. "If we overload the drone's circuits at the right moment, we can take down a large portion of them at once." Mara's hands shook, but she steadied them, holding a small device Lyra had given her. Lyra nodded. "On my mark." Mara activated the device. A wave of light and energy rippled through the city grid, striking the alien drones. Sparks flew, circuits fried, and several drones crashed in a spectacular display of fire and metal. The humans on the streets cheered, but Mara didn't smile. There was no time. More drones were coming. They needed a new plan. Lyra's mind raced, scanning the alien drones' formation. "They rely on precise movement," she said. "They can't predict chaos. If we create unpredictable obstacles, we can force them to collide with each other or crash into the environment." Mara nodded. "Like traps?" Lyra grinned. "Exactly. And we have a city full of materials." They ran through the streets, improvising as they went. Broken vehicles became barricades. Overturned cranes and shipping containers were positioned to force drones into narrow paths. Mara's hands worked tirelessly, moving debris with careful timing. She was exhausted, but every small victory fueled her resolve. The aliens were fast, but humans were clever. Mara realized something important in that moment. Technology alone didn't win battles. It was the human mind, quick thinking, and adaptability that truly mattered. Hours passed. The aliens' strategy began to falter. Their precision, their advanced sensors, their speed, it all crumbled in the face of human unpredictability. Mara and Lyra's small team of volunteers, ordinary citizens guided by instinct and courage, became a force that the aliens couldn't understand. Mara's heart swelled with pride. She had faced fear, uncertainty, and danger, and she had survived. Humans were fragile, yes, but their resilience, creativity, and courage made them formidable. Lyra glanced at her, eyes softening. Better than I could have hoped. Mara felt heat rush to her cheeks. I couldn't have done it without you, she admitted. You showed me what humans can really do. Lyra's hand found hers again, squeezing it gently. Mara felt a spark, a reminder of why she had noticed Lyra in the first place. Strength, courage, and intelligence, combined with warmth and care, made Lyra extraordinary. Humans survive, Lyra said softly, because we adapt, because we care, and because we never give up. That's why we're special. Mara nodded, realizing the truth of those words. They weren't just fighting aliens, they were proving the value of humanity itself. As the night dragged on, the aliens began to retreat. Their drones were damaged, confused, and unable to anticipate the next moves. Humans, battered but unbroken, had held the city. The skyline glowed with flickering lights, fires burning in some districts, but hope remained. Mara and Lyra stood on a rooftop, overlooking the city. We did it, Mara whispered, her voice trembling from exhaustion and relief. Lyra's hand brushed against hers. We did. But remember, this is only the beginning. They'll be back. Lyra. Mara didn't feel fear anymore. She felt determination. Then we'll be ready. Together. Lyra smiled, a rare, soft smile that warmed Mara's heart. Together, she echoed. In the midst of chaos and destruction, Mara realized something profound. Humans were extraordinary not because of their technology or strength, but because of their minds, their hearts, and their unyielding courage. Even against impossible odds, they could survive, adapt, and overcome. Mara looked at Lyra, the woman who had always been beside her, quietly, patiently, waiting to be noticed. She felt love not just for the heroism they had shared tonight, but for the person Lyra truly was. I see you, she whispered. Lyra's eyes glimmered with emotion. I've always been here, she replied. For the first time, Mara understood fully what those words meant. Love and courage could exist even in the darkest moments, and humans were capable of both in abundance. As the first light of dawn crept over the city, Mara felt a quiet pride swell within her. They had survived the night, faced an alien threat, and discovered the depth of human ingenuity and resilience. They had fought together, adapted together, and in the process, discovered the power of connection, trust, and love. Mara turned to Lyra. No matter what comes next, she said, voice steady. We'll face it together. Lyra nodded. Yes, together. And as the city slowly recovered, Mara knew that humanity's true strength was not just in weapons or machines, but in its people, brave, creative, and unyielding. And standing beside Lyra, she finally felt the full weight of that strength, not just in battle, but in life and in love. The war was far from over, but Mara felt ready. They had proven that humans could rise above fear, above danger, and above despair. They had proven that even in the darkest nights, humanity could shine. And Mara knew, deep in her heart, that whatever the next challenge, they would face it side by side, human ingenuity and courage, unbreakable, unstoppable, and fiercely alive. The city was quiet now, but the calm was fragile. Smoke still curled from burned buildings, lights flickered in damaged neighborhoods, and emergency sirens echoed faintly through the streets. Humans had survived the night, but the alien fleet had not vanished completely. Mara and Lyra stood on a rooftop overlooking the city, the sunrise spilling soft golden light over the ruins. Lyra's hand found Mara's, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. Words were unnecessary. The bond forged through danger, chaos, and triumph had grown stronger than anything either had experienced before. We need a plan, Lyra said finally, her voice firm, breaking the quiet. They'll be back. If we want to protect the city, and maybe the world, we can't just react. We have to take the fight to them. Mara nodded, determination settling over her like armor. Then, we fight smart. Not just weapons. Human ingenuity. They won't see it coming. Lyra's eyes sparkled. Exactly. Humans can adapt. Humans can think. Humans can survive. And humans can win. They began coordinating with the city's defense teams. Engineers, scientists, and volunteers moved through the streets, repairing damaged systems and preparing for another wave. Lyra's expertise was invaluable. She had hacked alien drones before, and now she could reverse engineer their patterns to give humans an edge. Mara assisted, guiding teams, making split-second decisions, and improvising defenses using whatever materials were available. She felt a surge of pride. Humans were fragile, yes, but tonight, their creativity, courage, and adaptability were stronger than any alien machine. Every barricade, every jerry-rigged device, every tactical maneuver reminded her why humanity could never be underestimated. The alien fleet returned, descending in formation like a metallic storm. This time, they were larger, more organized, and more aggressive. Mara and Lyra had anticipated this. Human defenses were ready. Streets had been transformed into unpredictable mazes. Energy grids were primed to disrupt drones. Automated vehicles were converted into obstacles and lures. Lyra's voice cut through Mara's earpiece. We act in 3, 2, 1. Mara activated a series of devices along the main avenue. A pulse of energy surged, hitting the drones. Sparks flew. They collided, faltered, and tumbled from the sky. Mara's heart raced not with fear, but with exhilaration. Humans had once again turned the odds in their favor. But the aliens were relentless. They adapted quickly, recalculating patterns in real time. Mara realized that they had to push even further, use the city itself as a weapon. They split up. Mara led a group of volunteers through narrow alleyways and broken streets, placing devices and creating unpredictable pathways for the drones. Lyra worked on the rooftops, controlling the city's tech remotely, guiding Mara and the others with pinpoint precision. You're incredible, Mara shouted over the roar of drones and explosions. How do you do all this? Lyra didn't answer immediately. She focused on the controls, her eyes sharp. Then she smiled faintly. Because humans are incredible. You just have to trust them and trust yourself. Mara felt her heart swell. It wasn't just the danger, the adrenaline, or the victory. It was this: connection, trust, and shared purpose. She had never realized how much strength, love, and companionship could give. Hours passed in a blur of motion, sparks, and chaos. The humans' unpredictable strategies frustrated the alien fleet. For every drone destroyed, another was lured into a trap, a collapsed building, or an energy surge. Every move was human ingenuity in action, improvised, unexpected, and brilliant. At one point, a massive alien drone loomed over the city square, its metal body shimmering, its sensors scanning for targets. Mara's group froze, unsure of how to stop it. Lyra's voice came through clearly, calm as ever. Use the environment, create chaos, distract it, and overload its circuits. Mara's mind raced. She saw a crane hanging precariously nearby. Using ropes and levers, she and the volunteers toppled it toward the drone. The drone swerved, sparks flying as it collided with debris. Mara felt the rush of victory, but she didn't pause. There was more to be done. The alien fleet, realizing the humans' unpredictable tactics, began to retreat. Their drones faltered, circuits fried, formation breaking apart. The skies, once dark with metallic invaders, now held flickers of smoke and scattered sparks. Humanity had survived. Humanity had fought, adapted, and prevailed. Mara and Lyra stood together on a rooftop, watching the retreating fleet. The city was battered, but alive. People were emerging from shelters, cheering, hugging, crying. Mara felt exhaustion wash over her, but also pride, awe, and a deep, steady warmth in her chest. Lyra turned to her, eyes soft. Mara smiled, brushing dust and sweat from her hair. Yes, we did. Humans are incredible. Lyra's fingers intertwined with hers. Not just humans. You, Mara, you were brilliant tonight. Mara laughed softly, feeling a mix of relief and joy. We were brilliant together, she corrected. Yes, Lyra agreed, smiling. Together. As the sun rose higher, painting the city in warm light, Mara and Lyra walked through the streets. The destruction was visible, but so was recovery. Volunteers cleared debris, engineers repaired systems, and people helped one another. Mara realized something important. The human spirit was unbreakable. Strength was not just physical, it was creativity, courage, compassion, and connection. They paused by a small fountain, the water reflecting golden sunlight. Mara looked at Lyra. Really looked at her for the first time without distraction. She saw intelligence, bravery, and a heart that had always cared deeply for her. I understand now, Mara whispered, her voice trembling. I see you, Lyra. I really see you. Lyra's eyes glimmered. I've always been here, Mara, waiting for you to notice. Mara smiled, feeling tears prick her eyes. I notice now. And I love you too. 5. Adder-about comboed. 5 rend. Lyra's hand squeezed hers gently. Then let's face everything. Together. They stood there for a long moment, holding hands, feeling the calm after the storm. The world was damaged, but it was alive. Humans were alive. And they had proven something important, not just to themselves, but to the universe. Humans were resilient, creative, and capable of extraordinary courage. Over the next days, the city slowly recovered. Humans repaired what was broken, rebuilt what was destroyed, and celebrated survival. Mara and Lyra worked together, not just as heroes, but as partners sharing laughter, strategy, and quiet moments of tenderness. The alien threat had been repelled, but the knowledge that it might return lingered. Still, Mara felt ready. She had learned something fundamental. Humans weren't the strongest because of weapons or machines, but because of their ingenuity, courage, and heart. And love gave strength too. One evening, as the city lights flickered back on, and children played amidst the repaired streets, Mara and Lyra stood on their rooftop again. Lyra leaned close, whispering softly, "No matter what comes next, we'll face it together." Mara smiled, heart full. "Together," she echoed. And for the first time in a long time, Mara felt a deep sense of peace. The world was still uncertain, still dangerous, but humanity was extraordinary. And with Lyra by her side, she knew they could face anything. The alien fleet might return. The skies might darken again. But Mara and Lyra, and humans everywhere, would stand strong, adapt, survive, and prevail. For they had discovered the true strength of humanity: courage, intelligence, love, and the will to fight, no matter the odds. And as they looked out over the city, hand in hand, Mara knew that this was only the beginning of their story. A story of humans, of love, of survival, and of hope.